Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ways to Human. My name is AJ. There's a question at the heart of so many heated debates today. Who owns your body? Who gets to decide what happens to you, what medical care you receive, or how you live your life? If your answer is, I do, then you already believe in bodily autonomy. But for millions of people, especially women and trans individuals, the right to control and make decisions about their bodies is under constant attack. Let's be honest, these attacks are not based on science, medicine, or concern for well being. They are driven time and time again by religious ideology. The Christian nationalists in power aren't just passing laws, they are imposing their personal religious beliefs onto the lives of millions of people who don't share them. Abortion bans, restrictions on contraception, forced pregnancies, none of this is about saving lives. If it were, then we will have universal healthcare. We will have parental leave. We will have comprehensive sex education. But instead, we have lawmakers who clutch a Bible in one hand and a pen in another, signing away the rights of women based on a book written thousands of years ago by goat herders that didn't even understand where the sun went at night. Now, this may sound harsh, but this is the level of education that biblical writers had. Many of these biblical rules and laws were passed down by word of mouth until eventually someone who could write put them down on paper. You can only imagine how much they were changed over time. And these same religious forces that target women's bodies today are working just as hard to erase transgender people and take away their bodily autonomy. They're banning gender affirming care, restricting how people can express themselves, and even criminalizing parents who support their trans children. These aren't policies designed to protect women and children, as they claim. They are designed to control, to erase, to force people into narrow, outdated definitions of gender dictated by ancient religious beliefs. And if they are aimed at protecting anyone, is to protect the fragile men that think that being attracted to a transgender woman makes them suddenly gay. Newsflash, it does not. Trans women are women. Say it with me. Trans women are women. The most common biblical excuse that I give hearing to excuse the trans hate is God made us in his image, man and woman. Or nobody should modify their body because God made us all perfect. Let's break this down for a second. If you truly, honestly, deeply believe in this, that's fine. You have that right. But I'm going to need you to apply it across the board and not just to groups of people and minorities that you dislike. The statement that we are all made perfect and we should not change God's perfect creation implies that nobody should have any elective surgeries. Fake boobs, tummy tuck, facelift, lip fillers, hair plugs, reshaping your nose, none of that should be allowed. All of these change the way you look. Now, if your vision is imperfect, well, God intended it to be that way, right? For you to be perfectly blind. So don't have LASIK surgery to fix your vision. If you're born with a heart defect, well, I don't know, God must have intended for your heart not to work correctly, right? So any surgical intervention should be considered elective and therefore not biblical because you will be modifying the perfect heart that God made for you. I have a cochlear implant and I have two corneal transplants. I made the choice to have these surgeries. They were not required or vital for me to stay alive. I was actually told once that I shouldn't have had those surgeries because it went against God's will. But at least this person was consistent. Let's be fair. If you do not believe in body modifications for trans people, then you should not believe in any body modifications, regardless of whether they save lives or not, right? If you were outraged by what I just said, then can you now see how easy it is to support trans people's rights to have surgical interventions and hormonal replacements? It is their choice. And if you claim that God makes no mistakes, then you are agreeing that God made trans people's brains with the thoughts that their gender doesn't match with their biological sex assigned at birth. And therefore, that is the way God intended it for them to be transgender. If you believe in freedom, real freedom, then you cannot support laws that take away someone's right to make decisions about their own bodies. It isn't religious freedom to impose your beliefs on others, it's oppression. Now, I know some of you watching might have been raised in these beliefs, and you might have been told that, restricting abortion or banning gender affirming care is biblical and is the right thing to do. But I ask you, how does forcing someone to suffer align with compassion, with love, with the teachings of Jesus, even if you will? Let's try something. Think of your favorite food. Now, force yourself to dislike it, hate it even. It's now your least favorite food, and you will never eat it again. Could you do that? Now, what is your sexual orientation? Are you straight? Could you force yourself to like someone of your same gender? Probably not, right? Are you cisgender, meaning that you identify as the biological sex that you are assigned at birth? Based on a doctor looking at your genitals for 2 seconds? Well, if your answer is yes and you are cisgender, then could you make yourself feel that you are the opposite biological sex than the one you were assigned at birth? Also, probably not. So tell me, how can someone convince themselves that they are not transgender or that they are? Being transgender is not a choice. It's not something that someone wakes up one day and decides that, they want to take shots periodically and have painful, expensive surgeries. Being a man or a woman or non binary is not something one can decide or choose. It's an essential part of who someone is. It's part of their own personal human experience. Now, another typical claim we hear is that preventing trans people from being who they are is about protecting women and children, to protect women's spaces. I hardly ever hear women complaining about this, by the way. It's usually cisgender straight men making all of these statements. Do you really think that a person will go through hormonal treatment, therapy, receive hatred from family, friends, as well as society, undergo painful and expensive surgeries just to go into the women's restroom to look over the stall or to take a peek through the cracks? You don't even need to do that. Right here in my city, there was a cisgender straight man went into the women's bathroom to look over the stall at a 12-year-old little girl. He had no cover. Had a huge beard. He was wearing his sports team shirt, shorts, plain clothing, no disguise, no surgeries, no hormones. He just walked right in. That is what you need to be worried about. No trans people just trying to pee. Women are not scared of trans women. We are afraid of toxic men. And why are these same toxic men not as worried about trans men as they are about trans women? At least be consistent if you're going to be hateful. Here's what I need you to hear: bodily autonomy isn't just a political issue, is personal. It's about real people. A woman forced to carry an unwanted pregnancy risks her life, her health, her future. A kid, a trans kid denied care, faces a lifetime of suffering for simply trying to be who they are. These are not abstract debates, these are human lives. I think it's time we stop letting ancient beliefs dictate modern lives. In fact, it's time we stop dictating other people's lives, period. It's time that we demand a world where people, not politicians, not preachers, decide what we do with our bodies. Because if we don't have the right to our own bodies, then what rights do we even have at all? Now stay strong, stay skeptical, and keep on looking for better ways to human. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.